In IUP's vision statement, we say that our students are hardworking, ready to learn, and come from diverse cultures, places, and backgrounds. We continue by saying energetic, dedicated, and diverse staff and faculty members welcome them to a personal, vibrant college home. In addition, in our critical roles as staff and faculty members, we each are responsible for complying with the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, commonly known as FERPA. This federal law protects the confidentiality of our students' records, and at IUP we intend to comply with both the letter and the spirit of the law. The law applies not only to current students, but to all individuals who have ever attended IUP. Over the past 10 years, through ongoing FERPA training sessions, we have significantly increased our knowledge of the law and therefore decreased our liability under the law. However, there is still work to be done. With the proliferation of electronic communication avenues, as well as the increased involvement of parents in their students' collegiate careers, we are still charged with protecting the confidentiality of our students' educational records. We are also charged with keeping our campuses safe, and FERPA has been updated to accommodate this critical responsibility. This training will explain exactly what IUP has done to meet these changing needs. To ensure that we all know what the law is and how each of us is responsible for complying with it, this online FERPA training has been designed by the Registrar's Office. It has been created to accommodate your busy schedule and is quick and easy to complete. I am happy to embrace this training, and I urge you to do likewise. Thank you.
Welcome to IUP's online FERPA training. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act is a federal law which protects the confidentiality of our students' educational records. The law applies not only to current students, but to all individuals who have ever attended IUP. To ensure that we all know what the law is and how each of us can comply with it, this online training has been designed. It has been created to accommodate your busy schedule and is quick and easy to complete. The following topics will be covered during this training. What is FERPA? Why should I be concerned about FERPA? What can happen if I choose to ignore FERPA? Who is protected under FERPA? What are the students' rights under FERPA? What is an educational record? What is directory information? Can a student withhold directory information? How? What does legitimate educational access mean? What should I do if I receive a subpoena for a student's records? What about parents? What is the Student Record Release Authorization? Are my day-to-day communications compliant with FERPA? What if it's an emergency? What should I do if I discover a potential FERPA violation? Who should I contact if I have questions? What is FERPA? FERPA is a federal law and stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It protects the confidentiality of a student's educational records. It's like HIPAA, which protects the confidentiality of our medical records. Why should I be concerned about FERPA? We are all responsible for the proper handling and protection of student records that we access in our daily job duties. We would want to act in a manner that protects the student's privacy and also protects IUP from adverse outcomes. In addition, as members of the larger university community, we should assist our colleagues in protecting student educational records. What happens if I choose to ignore FERPA? IUP could have its federal funding from the Department of Education, our students' financial aid, removed. A student could file a formal complaint against the individual who violated his or her educational records confidentiality. This would, in turn, result in an investigation by the Federal Department of Education. It could then, subsequently, result in sanctions based on the findings of the investigation. Disciplinary action could also result. Who is protected under FERPA? Any student who is or has been registered at IUP. This includes those students who are under 18 years of age. A student's FERPA rights kick in once the student is registered at IUP, no matter what their age. IUP continues to protect student educational records after death. External requests for these records should be submitted to the Associate Registrar for Student Records. What are the students' rights under FERPA? Students have 3 specific rights under FERPA. 1. The right to inspect their educational records either in the registrar's office or in their departments. It is important to check the student's identity, their I-card, before giving them access to their records. It is also necessary to note in the folder that you have granted the student access. Students can see their records, transcripts, from other schools, but cannot have a copy of another school's transcripts. They would have to request a copy directly from that other school. 2. Students have a right to request an amendment to their student records. IUP has a formal grade appeal policy, which is handled by the Provost's office. Additional details about this can be found in the catalog. 3. Students have a right to control disclosure of their educational records. This means that we must have their signature, written or electronic, in order to release their educational records, transcripts, certifications, grades, diplomas, etc. Remember, each student's record is confidential. It should not be discussed unless there is a legitimate educational reason. What is an educational record? A record directly related to a specific student and maintained in any format by IUP or its agents, third parties working on IUP's behalf. Formats include handwritten materials, printed materials, spreadsheets, letters, emails, scanned documents, and archived documents. Examples of educational records include class schedule, tuition bill and/or balance owed, financial aid package, quiz and test scores, cumulative grade point average, disciplinary records. What is not an educational record? Law enforcement records used only for law enforcement purposes. Employment records, unless employment is contingent upon a student's status, for example, our student workers. Sole possession, non-circulating records such as a note to be used as a personal memory aid. What is directory information? Information that would not generally be considered harmful or an invasion of privacy if disclosed. Directory information that can be released without the student's written permission. IUP defines the following as directory information: name, address, telephone number, dates and status of attendance, enrolled, part-time or full-time, and previous institutions attended, degrees conferred, major field of study and class, awards and honors, past and present participation in officially recognized sports and activities, as well as physical factors of athletes, such as height and weight, email username. Any other information not on this list may not be released without written and signed consent from the student, unless the release is to a school official with legitimate educational interest. More on that shortly. Remember, if in doubt, stop. Don't give it out. Ask for assistance. Can a student withhold directory information? Yes, students have the right to withhold their directory information by filing a non-disclosure form with the Office of the Registrar. The filing of this form will also remove their information from IUP's online directory, Find People. Also, when accessing a student's record on Banner, you would then see a pop-up box that says, "Warning, information on this person is confidential." In addition, you will see the words confidential next to the student's name on Banner. If a student has a confidential flag, you cannot disclose any information unless the student is physically present with a photo ID, or the student has provided written and signed consent. If you receive a request for information on a student who has a confidential flag, your reply should be, "I'm sorry, I cannot release any information on this individual." This is what you would say to anyone who is not an IUP official. Who is a school official? Someone who is employed by IUP, a student worker, a person or entity under contract to IUP, or a student serving on an official IUP committee. What is legitimate educational interest? A demonstrated need to know in order to perform your assigned job duties. Note: curiosity is not legitimate educational interest. Never look up a student's record just because you are curious about them. This includes your own sons and daughters and spouses. University title or position does not necessarily grant legitimate educational interest. If you're unsure, forward the request to your supervisor. Intimidation should not stop you from complying with federal law. What should I do if I receive a subpoena for a student's records? Forward it immediately to the Associate Registrar for Student Records, who is responsible for handling these with the assistance of the University Legal Counsel. What about parents? What about a spouse? Again, once a student registers at IUP, his or her educational record belongs to the student. The Associate and Assistant Registrars talk to all parents at every new student orientation to share this information with them. We also talk about the Student Record Release Authorization. What is the Student Record Release Authorization? Think of it as an electronic FERPA permission form. The students can go in through My IUP under Personal Information to access this. They choose which categories of information they want to be released, and to whom. For example, academic records can be released to Mom by listing her name and address. The student then identifies a keyword and key phrase, which he or she gives Mom. When Mom calls and gives the faculty member, advisor, dean, associate registrar, etc. the student's ID and the keyword and key phrase, the information designated can be discussed with Mom or whomever the student has identified. More specific detailed instructions about the Student Record Release Authorization can be found on the Registrar's website. Note: IUP considers all of its students to be emancipated minors, so even if Mom and Dad claim the student on their income tax forms, they must still have access through the Student Record Release Authorization. Again, all parents are told about this during new student orientation. Are my day-to-day communications compliant with FERPA? The most prevalent FERPA violation at IUP in recent years is the sending of a group email, which contains educational record information on the students within that group. Accidentally sending an email with a student's educational record information, class grade, quiz results, feedback on a writing assignment, to the wrong student is a FERPA violation. Another violation is accidentally saving students' applications or graded work in an electronic folder, which can be publicly accessed. Email is not considered to be a secure venue. Use caution and think before hitting send. On the other hand, D2L is a secure venue. Be equally cautious when creating lists. Be certain to remove any students' names from the list who have a confidentiality flag. Never use banner IDs or social security numbers on lists. What if it's an emergency? FERPA has exceptions for situations involving safety and health emergencies. Act on the side of safety. If it is an imminent safety or medical emergency, call campus police at 724-357-2141. If it is not an imminent situation, but you are concerned about a student, share your concerns with the assistant dean of your college. All assistant deans have access to IUP's care and response team, who are available to help a student. What should I do if I discover a potential FERPA violation? Do not ignore it. It is important that IUP reacts as quickly as possible. If you suspect that information has been released in violation of FERPA, speak to your supervisor. If there are still questions, contact the Associate Registrar for Student Records. Who should I contact if I have any other FERPA questions, now or in the future? Additional information regarding FERPA can be found on the Registrar's website at www.iup.edu/registrar under the Policies link. Please contact the Associate Registrar for Student Records at 724-357-4820 with any other questions. All questions are welcome.